All right, in this video, I'm going to address everything you need to do or every resource you need to use to become the best player you can be. And so that's what it really comes down to for me. Like when I go back to when I was a player growing up in my career and times where it really started picking up, like middle school, high school, and I was getting to a more serious level of having a chance to make my high school roster, have a college coach recruit me. You've got to really address everything. Okay, so if you want to become good, go practice what everyone else practices. If you want to become great, do something different. That's what it really comes down to. And when I say different, I mean you got to do everything that's necessary that everyone else is doing and then add to it, right? Add to the equation. And so I got 12 things I'm going to share with you, things that I did, things that I think can help you, things that everyone I played with at a high level also did. So by no means was I the only one doing this stuff, but you cannot be leaving things off to the side and you're ignoring them. You've got to address all areas. And so it's in no particular order. I'm going to fly through it and try to just give you the meat and potatoes of everything here and see how fast we can go through this. All right, so number one, when you get into your off season, really any time in the year, we've got to address getting faster, right? Speed is one of those things where it is important in every single sport, and as a baseball or softball player, it's important on offense and defense, okay? Offensively, if you're fast, you can lay down a bunt for a base hit when you're not hitting well, and that's going to improve your batting average. You can become a base stealer, right? And that's going to help your team tremendously. So if you're a person who can leverage stealing bases, stealing extra bases, even like on regular base hits, turning a single to a double to a triple, stuff like that, I think that is just crucial for a team, a player to really to be better and to win ball games. And then in the field, like if you're fast, man, it improves your range. Like on a baseball diamond, 90-foot diamond, you're looking at a 400-foot fence. I mean, you've got to be able to make sure that you have range to take away base hits from the opposing team. And not only take away base hits, but be able to field what's necessary, right? Like if you're on the opposite end where you're a liability because you're so slow and you can't make the plays, that's killing your team. It's killing your team, and your coach can only put you in a few spots, right? They can only put you at first base or third base or catcher, right? Or you pitch. But it's really hurting your team if you can't move around it and have some range. So getting faster, address that area. And it doesn't matter how fast you are. You can always improve from where you're at. Do not say, "Oh, I'm always slow. I'll forget about it." You're missing out if that's your perspective. And you do not want any coach at any age to look at you and have a mark on their paper saying, he's a liability because he can't cover any range. All right, number two is getting stronger. And it complements the speed. Strength and speed are huge separators as you get to high school level and above. That, in my opinion, was the number one separator. Your strength and speed was the difference between a good line drive, getting past the guy or not. Being able to drive the ball in the gaps, not just for a single now, actually driving it through the gaps where it rolls to the fence for a double, or driving the ball even out of the ballpark. So your strength as a hitter is going to be really important. Your strength is going to also help you a ton with how hard you can throw, your velocity. And so number one, speed. Number two, strength. Those are just crucial. Okay, 3, 4, and 5, these are obvious. These are the actual tools of being a baseball or softball player. It's become a better hitter, become a better thrower, become a better fielder. I don't have to go into too much on those. I think those are obvious. I'll say this with throwing, don't just address velocity, address your accuracy. Become a more accurate thrower. It's going to help you out in any position. Fielding, be more consistent, minimize errors. Be reliable in the field. Don't be a liability in the field. And if you can't consistently catch the ball with the glove, in the air for a fly ball, on the ground with hard ground balls, whatever it is, that's going to become a huge issue. Hitting, address contact and power, both of them. Don't just try to hit all home runs, because then you're probably going to have tendencies in your swing that make your swing not so mechanically sound, and then you're going to start to have more strikeouts, and you're going to have worse contact. And, if you're a good contact hitter, maybe don't just be satisfied with that. Try to improve your strength as a hitter as well. Maybe utilize things like using your lower half more, finding out ways in your swing mechanically to improve your velocity, but then also addressing what we talked about in number 2, getting stronger. And that's by getting in the weight room if you're of the age. In my opinion, 13, 14 years old is a good starting point, and then obviously and up is where you should be in the weight room. And then if you're younger, if you're not of that age, still working out, still exercising, still utilizing push-ups, sit-ups, chin-ups, bodyweight stuff to try to get stronger and give yourself an edge on your competition. All right, number 6 is not necessarily like a skill, it's a resource you should be utilizing. That's video analysis. This is something I know in my career, even in pro ball, they had plenty of resources for us where all of our bats were videos. So we can go in after a game, whether it was good or bad, and see what was happening and see our swing. But you got to video your swing. You got to video your throwing motion. Even like videoing your fielding from time to time can be something that can be helpful. But the biggest ones are your swing and then your throwing motion. Pitchers, definitely video your pitching motion and see where you can improve there. But utilize video analysis. Don't do it every day. Do it periodically. Do it more than once a year. Honestly, 3 or 4 times a year would be probably ideal. Once every couple months. And if you're really trying to work on something in your swing and really trying to improve one area, get a video of where you're at now or previously, and then give yourself a couple weeks, and then maybe check in after a month, and then see, in a shorter time frame where you're at and if you made those improvements. But, everybody has a phone nowadays, and so get a phone, get somebody to video you, or buy a tripod for like $15 or whatever, and then video yourself or set it up on something. Utilize video analysis, and the phones now all have the slow motion feature as well. You can see that thing broken down, and you can see every single movement you're making. So you got to utilize that. So that's 6 so far. Let's back up. We got get faster, get stronger, become a better hitter, thrower, fielder, utilize video analysis. Okay, number 7 is huge. And obviously, if you've watched any of my stuff, you probably know what I'm going to say here. That's strengthening your mindset. And so things in that category is confidence, handling failure, mental toughness, focusing better, perspective. So that's in the category of mindset as well, like shifting your perspectives. There's so many different things. And even within that, it's not directly like mindset, but still related to like your intangibles, right? Your routines, your habits, your schedules, your time management. Like that's going to make you more effective and efficient and getting better at all the things we already mentioned, right? Having a game plan for yourself, having a framework to follow, writing stuff down, journaling. There's other things as far as strengthening your mindset, reading books. 2 really popular books for baseball players that comes to mind. The Mental Game of Baseball is one of the most popular ones. It's a longer book. It's got tons of great stuff in it. Then the other one that's good for all athletes that I read was called Mind Gym. MINDGYM, Mind Gym. Those are 2 books you could be reading. Read 10 pages a night. Get a routine where you're starting to feed your mind the things that you want to see yourself do on the field, see yourself think on the field. That's the mental game is the most ignored part of our game today, and it's the most important part to putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. It really is. There's so many players that are physically talented that lack the mental side and don't see good performance. And then there's a lot of guys that are in the middle of the pack with talent that perform better than most because they take care of the mental side. They have an edge mentally compared to the rest. They play more aggressively. They're not afraid of failure. They leave it all out on the line. They focus better. They can eliminate distractions. They don't let things get to them, right? They got thick skin. They're a good leader, right? There's all these things that they can control to help leverage and elevate their performance better than they were before, just strictly based off of mindset. You probably heard before that the game of baseball and softball is like 90% mental, right? Obviously, there's not like a real stat on what our brain on what percent it really is, but if you do not have the mental side figured out, you're not clear on it, it is just putting chains on your physical game. It is just not letting you unleash that talent that you have. It's not letting you perform. And that's like the most frustrating thing. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent about this. Everyone's been there, right? Everyone's been there where they know they're capable of something, but just can't crack the code or can't see the results on the field. Right? At what point in time are you going to realize that it's not necessarily physical or mechanical, right? The most common example should be this. If you know you can just hit line drive after line drive in the cage, but can't translate it into the game, maybe it's not your swing. Maybe it's your approach. Maybe it's what you're thinking when you're on deck. Maybe it's what you're thinking when you're up to bat, right? Maybe it's what you're thinking in regards to your timing, what you're seeing. There's other things outside of the physical mechanics of the swing or of anything as a ball player. All right, so that's 7. Number 8. Okay, this is going to be another different one. But when you get into high school, if you're serious about playing ball beyond high school, this is the college recruiting process. Understanding what to do, what you should be doing to help yourself out. First thing is this. If you want to go play college ball, they're not always going to come to you. Very rarely does that happen unless you're the absolute best in your area. All right, most of us need to market ourselves. So coming up, making a video, okay? So getting a video and putting game footage in there. If you hitting a base hit in the game, doing something good in the game, making a good play, whatever. And then also getting video footage of you, taking BP reps, taking fielding reps, doing everything that a baseball or softball player does. Running, talking to the camera, saying what school you go to, what your GPA is, things like that. Having a video that displays yourself is 10 minutes roughly. And then you can take that video, you can put it in an email and send it out to a bunch of coaches, and then also put in the email a nice a paragraph written from you, introducing yourself, introducing why you're interested in their program, explaining to them some of the things that you do well. This isn't something where they're going to just believe everything you're saying if you say, oh, I'm the best player in the world, but just a short paragraph to get their attention, letting them know that you would be interested in their program. And then maybe they can respond and letting you know that you can go to one of their camps. Or maybe if it's the next level of interest, you can tell them your schedule. And so if they really are interested in you and they have your schedule, guess what? They can come watch you play. But, they're very rarely just going to come watch you play just from one email. You've got to be able to communicate on your own. You've got to reach out. Not everyone's just going to show up on your door. Matter of fact, nobody's going to show up on your door. And very few are just going to call you out of the blue. So you've got to be able to market yourself. You've got to be able to leverage the things that you can that other people aren't. Here's the other thing. College coaches have periods. They have a quiet period, a dead period, an active period where they can reach out to you. Go look up the calendar and the schedule and understand when you can actually talk to them. There's going to be times where if you reach out to them, they're not going to be able to talk to you in a totally dead period where there's rules they have to follow. And so it doesn't mean they're not interested in you. Sometimes you might reach out, they don't respond. You think, oh, they don't want to hear from me, and you just reached out at the wrong time. Understanding that is huge. And there's different levels. So you can get seen by going to a showcase, and it'd be really good to see on the showcase on their website or whatever, reach out and figure out who is going to be there. Right? Like every showcase will show that, or if you ask, it'll tell you, hey, we have 10 colleges. These are all the colleges that will be at our showcase. So going to showcases, if you can display something that's special, if you have good arm speed, good running speed, something that you think will catch the eyes of a college coach. Going to showcase would be a really good idea for you. That's one thing. Going to a college camp can be good. You just have to be careful. You go to a camp where there's 100 other players, it's very easy to get lost in the mix. If you go there and they know you're coming, if you've communicated with them already, if they've invited you, those are things that would be good. Better than just showing up and them not knowing who you are when you come or when you leave. Because if they think about it just from a common sense perspective, if you show up and you're in the mix with a bunch of other people and you leave, you never talk to a coach, never thanked them after the camp, had no communication with them, and they still don't know who you are when you left, it doesn't do you a whole lot. It's good exposure for you, for sure. It's good experience for you, especially if you're younger, just to go out and do that and get in that setting. You do that a couple of times, then you don't become as nervous when you do it more often. So there's still some benefits, but as far as an interest level of them and you're still kind of you're still at a lower level. The highest level of interest to understand if a college coach likes you is when they travel to see you, not when you travel to see them, right? If you're playing a game with your team, your summer team, your school team, whatever, and they actually leave where they're at and come travel to see you or a group of players or your team, that's the highest level of interest. And then obviously from that, if they actually communicate with you after the game and let you know that they saw you, they like you, whatever it is, again, those are the things you're really looking for. But to back it up, you got to start somewhere. Okay, you've got to be reaching out to schools on your own, through email, through phone call would even be better. I think if they can hear your voice as a player and you explain to them, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm really interested in your program. Wanted to see if you have any recommendations or suggestions for me on when you can see me or any events I can go to where you can see me, camps, showcases, whatever it is. It doesn't need to be rocket science. When you do that and then they hear your voice, that's a lot different than them just getting a random email. They probably get hundreds of emails. And so I think that's good stuff for you to understand. I'm going to stop there with the college recruiting guidance. Okay, that's number 8. So let's go to number 9. Okay, number 9 here is having a good off-season program. Okay, having a good off-season program. Well, we talked about already 5 things that you should be doing. So it's really a matter of putting a framework around those into a program or system. Okay, so you want to get faster. You want to get stronger. You want to become a better hitter, a better fielder, a better thrower. You want to address all of those things. And also into that, you want to have a good diet, which I was going to mention next, but I'll mention that now. Have a good diet. And so most athletes want to improve muscle mass to get stronger. And so if you want to do that, you need a diet that supports it. You should have a diet high in protein. For me as an athlete, I would take protein and make sure I knew how much protein I was getting throughout the day, getting enough to improve muscle mass, not just maintain. All right, because if you want to grow the muscles, you need to be receiving enough protein for that to happen as well. Yeah, you can get in shape, but if you get in shape with a bad diet, you're only getting halfway there. If you want to get the full way there of maximizing your full potential in your body, you got to combine a good diet with a good workout program. Now you combine those two things together, you maximize your opportunity. For me, it was protein, it was creatine, it was vitamins, multivitamins, fish oil. Those were good things. I'm not here to tell you everything you need to take. I'm just telling you what I did and stuff that worked for me. And doing it over time, not just doing it for 1 week, 1 month, doing that over time, seeing the longevity of that pay off. But back to the off-season program, you should not be just trying to work out, go hit, go field, and just going about it thinking about, well, I'll just do this today, that today. You need to have this down on paper. You need to go on your computer and type up a game plan or write it down in a notebook or get it from a coach or somebody who knows what they're talking about. And look, most of you probably aren't going to be able to do this on your own, and that's why I'm doing this and I can help you out with something like that. But your program, your off-season program needs to be down to a T, Right? So for example, working out. If you're working out and you're lifting weights, you know, you're tracking which exercises you're doing, every single one. And then the next category on that is, okay, how many reps am I doing with this exercise? How many sets am I doing with this exercise? What's the weight I'm doing with this exercise? Something you can track. Because if you track it, then as you progress along, you should be increasing each of those three or one of the three, whether that be reps, sets, weights. Something's got to increase. Two common things for working out, if you want to go higher weight, usually it's lower reps. If you're doing lower weight, you should be doing higher reps, right? Something to maximize your maximize your body. It's not rocket science. Like, get out there and get a burn. Like, get out there and like, if you're just going through the motions of like, oh, most people do 3 sets of 10, I'll just do that. You do that, you feel like a little bit of a burn, or it was like, oh, it was a good workout. Like, that's not doing you enough. Everyone's doing that at a bare minimum. Hopefully, not everyone's working out, but like, you got to think, like, if you're really trying to maximize your full potential, you got to do stuff that other people aren't doing. You don't need to spend 2 hours in the gym, but man, attack a 45-minute workout and really like get after it and wear your body out to where you're physically exhausted and you got nothing left on the table, the same way you would when you play a game. And then when you do that enough times, now you start to see, and you combine the diet, now you start to see more gains than the rest of the pack. But have an off-season program that you follow. Don't just say, don't just go out there and just work and not track it without an actual, boom, 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 boom. This is what you're doing, and actually looking at it. That your results will double when you actually put it into a program. That's number 9. Number 10 was diet. We talked about that. But, again, if you're eating clean and eating how an athlete should eat, it's going to really help accelerate your progress. It's going to accelerate your strength. It's going to accelerate your endurance. It's going to help. The body is like one of the most important parts to become we talked about number 1 and 2, strength and speed. Right? And so diet, strength, speed, it's a triangle. They're all connected. Can't have one without the other. I already made a video on diet too, and I really get into detail on it. So you can go on my channel and look up the videos and you'll see it on there. All right. My last 2 are like bonuses. These are like extra things that helped me out a lot and probably stuff that not everyone is doing. So I want to give it to you in this video. Number 11 is having a proper post-game evaluation. Okay, so like when you're in the season, understanding how you evaluate yourself. And again, like backing up to the beginning of this video, we're talking about like anything to do or any like anything to leverage or use as a resource. So if you have a evaluation system you use, and this is not complicated. I'm going to tell you what it is in a second. But you have, a framework to follow, and you just stick to that after each game, your mental clarity and state of mind will be so much healthier throughout the season and over time compared to getting caught in the emotional state that we can all fall into as a baseball or softball player, the trap. Because if it's a game of failure, that's going to really be taxing on us mentally if we fall into the thought that we're failures, right? And so you've got to be able to shift off of that. So how do you evaluate yourself after a game? Do you evaluate your batting average? Do you evaluate if you got a hit or an out? Do you evaluate what the umpire called on you or not? Hopefully not. And most of us fall into that trap. That's what we're doing. If we look at it and we got 2 hits, even though they were like weak hits off the end of our bat, we think we had a good game. Or if we had 2 strikeouts and maybe one of them was a bad call by the umpire and maybe one of them was against the best pitcher in the league, we think we had a bad game. And so there's 2 things you should be evaluating. Number 1 is quality at bats, okay? And number 2 is, as a hitter, you want to try to hit the ball hard twice, okay? Now, if you do that, that's a quality, every time you hit the ball hard, it is a quality at bat. And I'm going to explain what each one is. Quality at bat is a walk, if you get hit by a pitch, if you move a runner over, if you have a sacrifice bunt or fly, if you do something good for your team, right? That's, for example, an RBI is something good for your team, you've scored a run, or moving a runner over, good for your team. Moving the runner over means, let's say there's a runner on second base and there's no outs and you had a good hard ground ball to the right side of the field. The runner can advance to third. You might get out of first base, but now it's runner on third with one out. You're still very likely to have that runner score throughout that inning. So that's what it means to move the runner over. We're talking about a hard hit ball is a quality at bat, regardless if the person catches it or not. Because you could have a rocket line drive hit to the best fielder, they make a diving catch and they catch it. Or you hit it to the worst fielder, it goes between their legs and they miss it. And we're evaluating if it was caught or not. Something that is not in our control. You need to evaluate the things in your control. Hard hit balls, quality at bats. That is what, and as a hitter, because most of us evaluate our performance as a hitter unless we've made a bunch of errors. And like, you gotta evaluate your fielding too. Like, did you make the plays that were hit to you, right? But every single game, you have something to evaluate with your at-bats. That is most of our time to shine and most of our time to display what we can do in a game. And so that's the way you evaluate your post-game. Not on stats, the umpire's calls, anything outside of our control that happened during the game that, isn't measurable, but at the same time is separate from the input that we gave. And when you do that over time, when you do that over a season, you will not get rattled by a bad game where you went 0 for 3 and still hit the ball hard twice and did what you're capable of, because you had a system that you evaluated yourself on the things that you could control. You had a good game if that's something that you did. You're going into your next game with momentum in your mind. You're not going into that game with the feeling that I went 0 for 3 and I didn't get a hit last game. That's a hitter that lacks confidence. But again, it's about really understanding how this game works, and that it's not all about the stats or the batting average. It's one of those things as a baseball or softball player, you really need to adapt that mindset. And the last one, I'll finish with that. That's 11. And the 12th one for me, as a person of faith, as a Christian, was utilizing the fact that I'm playing this game as a faith-driven athlete. I have a bigger picture and bigger purpose behind what I'm doing. Utilizing the things that I do to help me out mentally and spiritually, to strengthen myself within. Things like a quick blessing myself when I'm on deck, or saying a pre-game prayer or a prayer in-game, or just talking to God throughout my game or practice or whatever. And being the same person I am off the field, also on the field, being true to the identity of who I really am, not having to separate the two. You're a person who plays the game. You're a person that plays softball or baseball. It's not who you are. Like, it really isn't. And so, being who you are on the field and not being two different people, that for me was that was a game changer. That was like the X factor. So I just want to mention that as like a bonus. Like, if that's, if you are a person of faith, is this something that you believe in? Obviously, I'm very vocal and open about that on my channel, and that's part of like my brand of what I like to do, is just being a coach. I'm going to be fully open with that, and me as a player, me as a coach, I'm going to utilize that. And the last thing I'll say is this. There's times, I heard Ed Milet say this in a video, and I thought it was awesome. He talked about times where he was really going through like hard times through his career, where he wasn't progressing, was experiencing a lot of failure early on and not seeing any sign of success. He felt like he was picked up and put into the next spot. Like, he mentioned that he felt like God picked him up and carried him, from point A to point B, and then put him down and then let him continue the journey. I think that's the way that, for me, I felt like through failures as well. Like, how am I going to bounce back? How am I going to weigh this? How am I going to bear the burden that I'm facing right now with the failure I experienced in the game? and not having to feel like you have to do it all yourself or figure it all out on your own. Just having faith, having belief that um, there's a higher power in charge. Everything happens for a reason, and that what is happening now is something will come from it. So I'm going to leave it with that. Those are the 12 things. If you address these 12 things here, you're covering, you're covering all of it. And if there's something I'm missing, put it in the comments below. I'll be very curious to see what you have to say. If this is helpful for you, subscribe, like this video, share this video to somebody who it would help. Again, I'll put my stuff below. Follow me on Instagram, and stay tuned for more. I'm going to put a video on the side here somewhere, and click on that video as well, and I'll try to give you some more information on how you can become a better ball player.